All right. Welcome to Rich Conversations. We have another fantastic episode. We are talking all the way from Edmonton, Canada, Faisa Omer. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Rich.
We are now experiencing some good internet connection now. So we're all good. We were just having some technical difficulties before. Now we're all set. And this should be a really interesting episode. Why don't you briefly introduce yourself?
So my name is Faisa Omer. I am a mental health counselor in a high school, and I work primarily with Somali youth. I was born in Ottawa, Ontario, but for the past 3.5 years, I've been living in Edmonton, Canada. I don't have that Canadian flag behind me anymore.
I know you have a Canadian.
I brought it with me.
Okay, so you've been in Ottawa and Edmonton. Can you kind of describe the vibe of both of those cities?
So Ottawa is the nation's capital. So Canada's capital. It's fancy. We have the Parliament buildings. We have our funky prime minister that we love to flaunt. It's not getting good press right now, though. And it's a very small, homey city where I was born. But Edmonton is all the way on the west side. Then you get Ottawa over here.
Yeah.
More north. A lot colder here. It gets down to like minus 45 Celsius, which is very cold if you're.
Yeah.
And no, it's definitely starting to feel like home. It's not as multicultural, but the people who do live here are very accommodating and great to work with.
Yeah. Elaborate more on that. What are the people like in Edmonton? What do they value, and what are like some of their interests
in Edmonton? So Edmonton, I think, is a lot more conservative than Ottawa. So we in Canada we have something called provinces. So the Alberta in general compared to Ontario, I don't know if this is too much geography, is a lot more conservative.
It's a lot more rural too. It's like very, kind of out in the open.
Plains here.
Yeah.
Everything's very flat. The buildings are a lot smaller, but not as much forest. But Ottawa, there's a lot of valleys, lakes, forests. It feels like two different countries sometimes. It's all Canada has to offer.
So what brought you then? You lived in Ottawa most of your life. What brought you to Edmonton then?
That's a long story.
How would you summarize that story?
So in high school, how long can I tell this story?
We got time.
All right. You asked for it. So I was always really interested in art, very interested in photography. So in high school, I decided that was the route that I wanted to take when I graduated. And I thought of doing maybe like architecture, something like that. But since I'm the oldest of 7 kids to parents that are immigrants, the bar was a lot higher, and the bar was very strict of what I can do, right?
Okay.
Become a lawyer or a doctor, an engineer. Art was not.
So is this your family saying, like, kind of directing you in a direction? Okay.
Yeah, because you have parents that just came from a war, and that are trying to, survive in a brand new country and raise their kids. They want their kids to be very successful, and for them, being very successful is, being a lawyer or being a doctor, being an engineer. Being an artist is too risky in terms of success for people have gone through like big traumatic experiences,
Yeah.
right? So they're banking on us to be successful as well, right?
Yeah.
Because they've literally risked their lives and left their homes to come to a new country, right? So my parents escaped the Somali civil war, right? And I'm the oldest. So there's a lot of pressure on me. So I kind of had to let go of my dreams of being an artist, and kind of go with what my parents wanted. And at that point, I think my dad was looking through like the university program book, and he's like, I like the sound of this one. And he's like, and he was pointing at neuroscience. So I ended up doing 4 years of neuroscience, and by that point, I was, it was okay. It was interesting, but it wasn't my love. It wasn't my passion. It was an arranged marriage. We got along. We birthed a degree.
Yeah.
We spent 4 years together. There is some love there. It just wasn't the love that makes you want to get up in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So my fourth year of my undergrad, my dad and my mom were like, why don't you do a master's? And I was in that mode where like, I'm going to do whatever my parents want to make them happy. And I'm like, why not? And I was like, let me apply. So I applied for a master's in neuroscience, and I got in. And it was such a big deal for my family that in the village back home in Somalia, they came together and they had a huge party. And like over there, if you slaughter an animal and you all eat together, it's like a big deal. So that's what they did when I got into my master's.
Really?
I was the first person. Yeah, I was the first person in my family to get master's, right? So it was such a big deal. If you understand the level of pressure I was feeling.
Yeah.
So I got into this master's. It's an arranged marriage. We're still in neuroscience. Year number 5, year number 6. I'm supposed to graduate. I'm burning out completely.
Yeah.
It is. I want to do what I like, but I'm still here. So I think I was in my lab at like 3 a.m. in the morning typing up my 100-page thesis, because I was sleeping in that lab at some point. Like if you were open up the filing cabinets, there was clothes in there. It was weird. It was a weird time. Because I had to finish my thesis, right? So I remember just thinking, why don't you just do what you like? Like you spent 7 years here doing something for your parents. Why don't you do what you like and keep it a secret? So I searched up photography school because I'm a student at heart.
Yeah.
And I saw the deadlines and I'm like, I'm going to apply for this after I graduate. So in the summer, I applied and I got in. And when the school year started in September, that's when I switched to Canada, I told my parents I'm going to be looking for a job. I have my 2 degrees now. I'm going to be looking for a job. But I was going to photography school. And I was just, really happy. I get to, play in the studio. It was so fun. It was very healing after 7 years of just, working really hard, right? It was very true. And I realized the difference between if you want to do something and when you kind of feel like you have to do something.
Okay.
Because I was on time. For my 8 a.m. studio class. I would bike there too. I'd bike there, get there on time, get there sometimes before the teacher, because that enthusiasm is there, that need to, feed your soul was there, right? But 7 years in neuroscience, I sometimes, most of the time I'd be late to class.
Yeah.
I would just stroll in, and it's like it doesn't matter what your mind is saying, your body doesn't want to do it, your soul doesn't want to do it, and it's manifesting itself in your actions, right? So I lasted 6 months until my parents found out. So I have 6 younger siblings. To this day, I don't know who told them. They all deny it, but one of them said, "Oh, you don't know where she goes every day?"
Oh.
She goes to photography school. She takes pictures and she pays to go to school. So my dad just could not wrap his head around it, and he took me out to a restaurant. He's never done that before.
Okay.
Because it's like we can eat at home. We don't need it. So
Yeah.
he's like, we're going to take you to a restaurant. And I remember in the car, like, this is so strange. Maybe he knows. No, there's no way he knows. I lasted 6 months in. So I was like confident. And then we sit and he's like, we're eating. And he's like, I've heard the funniest thing. He's talking in Somali. I've
Okay.
heard the funniest thing, the strangest thing, that you're learning to take pictures with your 2 degrees. And I was just quiet. I'm like, it's true. And he dropped his fork. He dropped his fork. He's like, what? But why? And I'm like, because it makes me happy. And he said, you don't need to be happy. You just have to work for the family. And it was something that I think I would never forget, because it just shows the big difference between parents that, went through so much to raise you in a different country and what their priorities are, to someone who was, compared to me, who was born in the safe space. I haven't gone through the Civil War, like I was born in Canada, like I've been in school since kindergarten. You know what I'm saying? I don't have that level of need to survive that they do. So when I said I want to be happy, he could not fathom it. But to someone else, like maybe probably you as well, you understand the importance of being happy in this life, even if you might not have enough. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, then the thing is, my dad has access to my resumes. So we went home. He was fuming. He has my resumes. He applied to a bunch of jobs. And then he got me this Edmonton job. And I had to drop out of photography school. Yeah, so I was in an email chain with people, like I didn't recognize their names, and they're like, so is the interview Tuesday at 11 a.m. work or whatever? I'm like, who are they sending to? I don't remember applying for this.
Yeah.
And I see that they're writing my name. Hey, Faisa, does this time work for you? And I was so confused, and I called my dad. He's like, yeah, which one is it? I applied for like 13 of them. So I'm like, oh. So I ended up doing that interview, and I remember I wasn't trying to do that well because I didn't want the job, right? But that sense of duty is still there, because that's the way I was brought up. You have to work for the family. That's why I was in neuroscience for 7 years, right? This is the first time I'm doing something for myself, and now it's being taken away from me. So I ended up getting that job. It was good pay. It did mean I had to move to Edmonton. My family really wanted me to take the job as well, because my mom's brother lives here and his family in the city. So I ended up moving here, and the job was a mental health counselor. So in Alberta, it's not regulated. You can be a mental health counselor.
Okay.
Anyone can. You don't really need the schooling.
So you didn't need the 7 years of school.
I didn't need that. You just have to, they just have to give you a chance. In Ontario, it's very regulated. In a way, it feels like sometimes that Alberta is in the past, while Ontario is a bit more ahead when it comes to societal issues, a whole bunch of things. So in Ontario, it's very hard to be a counselor. You have to do an exam, you have to have the right schooling. But anyways, they hired me as a counselor, and I have a neuroscience background. So neuroscience is the study of the brain. It's it's a lot of biology, some psychology in there, but I cannot sit down with the youth who's telling me about, hey, I tried to commit suicide last night. I don't know what to say. I know what happens in your brain, but I don't know how to talk to you about what you're feeling right now. So I was in it for a couple of months where I'm like, this is not, I enjoy the idea of being a counselor. Like, I want to help people, but this is not my forte. So I did another master's, went back to school, and I just finished a master's in counseling psychology last April.
Okay.
So now I know what I'm doing. So now if there's a kid, so I just kind of pivoted into this role, right? So when I was leaving photography school, I remember feeling heartbroken. I actually missed my flight because I didn't want to leave my printing class. We had a printing class where we print our photos. My flight's in like 2 hours. I'm like, no, I have to wait till all my photos are printed. missed that flight because of, you know.
Wow.
So yeah, so I had that love, you know. I had that love. I tasted it. I would go to class, remember, on my bike. So I was here doing this job, which I like, but it's not photography. It's not art.
Yeah.
And I would go on Kijiji. Do you guys have Kijiji? It's like where people sell things.
No, I don't think
Like
so.
if you want to sell, you know, one of your books, or you want to sell like a table. Do you have Craig? I think it's Craigslist.
Craigslist, yeah.
Yeah, we call it Kijiji. Um, so I kept looking for studio lights. Like I go to sleep like with my phone open, looking for studio lights or like things that I saw while I was
Yeah.
in photography school, right? I'd look at my camera. I had all my old classmates from photography school on Instagram, and it'd be so sad to kind of see what they're doing in class while I am, you know, working, being an adult, you know, and you know. So I was just kind of waiting, and like I'm feeling sad about it. And then COVID hit.
Okay.
So when COVID hit, it's like, oh, I have time now. The stores are about to close. I ran to the camera store with my credit card and swiped like $3,000 worth of equipment and went home with all that equipment. So it's my chance. And then I had months and months of lockdown, just remembering everything that I learned in photography school, just watching YouTube videos,
Yeah.
just remembering, because this is 2 years in advance. This is 2 years being a counselor. This is 2 years not really touching my camera,
Yeah.
reminiscing, wishing that I could be in photography school, right? And I did a series called Reclaiming Richie.
Okay.
So there's a neighborhood in Ottawa. So obviously when the lockdown happened, I told myself, if you're gonna be locked down somewhere, you're gonna be locked down with all your siblings and your family. So I took my new equipment and went back to my hometown, you know, hunkered
Yeah.
down with them. And I did a series on the Black men in the neighborhood, because this neighborhood is not looked upon fondly. Like
Okay.
if there's any kind, it's known for high crime, and it's not the best neighborhood in the city. And if it's in the news or something, it's for the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah.
So everybody knows the name of the neighborhood. It's called Richie. So if you hear Richie, it's like, oh, that's a scary place, right? So that's where we live. That's where we grew up. That's you know. So I did a series of Black men in that neighborhood, including my brother and all his friends. And these are kids that I've seen grown up and that I had to
Yeah.
babysit, and you know, that
Yeah.
so that connection is there. So this is after the murder of George Floyd. So you know,
Okay.
that tension is there. What's going on? We're seeing what's going on in America. We're having our own protests in Ottawa and around the country. So I asked him a question. I said, "Have you ever gone through a racist experience?" And the stories that came out were very eye-opening, because it's like mundane, everyday life. Uh, like just buying pizza from a store turns into a racist incident because this is a reality. So, for example, let me tell you that story. There was a boy who was in one of the boys I took photos of. He was in the pizza line in a pizza shop.
Okay.
And the deal is if you get 2 slices of pizza, you get a free drink. So he knows he's going to order 2 slices of pizza. There's like 2 people in front of him. He's like, let me just grab my drink and wait in line with my drink, right? So he went to grab the drink, and other people in line started yelling, like one person in particular, because the owner went to the back to get the pizza. He's stealing the drink, he's stealing. The owner comes to the front and says, "You get out, just get out." And he's like, "But I was just grabbing a drink." "No, get out. You can't steal." And he didn't get his pizza. He had to find somewhere else to eat.
Yeah.
So that's like it's one of the stories that came up. There's another one where, you know, this actually happened to my brother, where he got a test back and it said 100%. He was so happy. And it said, "Come see me." I was like, okay, let me go to the teacher. I wonder what he wants to see, what he wants to talk about.
Yeah.
So the teacher says, this is really well written. This is too good for you to write.
Really?
And yeah, it's too good for you to write this. This is 100%. And my brother felt all these emotions. He's like, a part of me felt really good because I didn't work that hard on it. And he's like, I wrote it in like one night, and he's like, it's so good. Another part was very offended. Like, what do you?
Yeah, right.
What do you? Yeah, I think I'm smart. I think I am good enough, right?
Yeah.
But this is where there's issues in the system, because my brother calls my dad. My dad goes to the principal. The principal says, you know what? Why don't we just let this teacher remark it? He remarks it to a 60%, the same essay.
From like 100 to 60?
Yeah, 100 to 60. He's like, I'm going to remark it. That's what the principal decided. He's like, we're just going to let him remark it. He remarks it to a 60. Fast forward to the end of the year, my brother's being told, listen, we don't think this is the right level for you because of your mark, because his mark tanked, right? We think you should be in a lower level English class.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that are happening to youth in a neighborhood that's not looked on as, the best. So it kind of shows.
So it kind of like feeds into itself and perpetuates itself.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not things that these boys can avoid, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get hungry, you want food, right?
Yeah.
Another story. Some of these boys they walked into, I think Tommy Hilfiger, right? There's Tommy Hilfiger in the city, and they have resumes and they want a job. So they walk into the store, and one of the friends already works there, and they're like, hey, all right.
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
The manager. Yeah. Like, you think they're just happy. So they all give the resumes to the manager, and then they all leave. And apparently the manager, and while they're leaving, they're like, let's go to Calvin Klein next. They're talking really loud. So apparently the manager in Tommy Hilfiger calls the manager in Calvin Klein and says, don't hire them. They're coming to you now. Don't hire them. And that boy who's their friend is hearing all this. And that's just, so you don't know anything about me. You've seen me for 30 seconds and you already made your own assumptions about me and that I'm not hireable. So if they can't get food, if they can't, succeed in school and education, if they can't even, work and get a job, like all these barriers, what is there to turn to? What society thinks of them, right?
Yeah.
Which is a lot of negatives. So that's kind of what that project kind of blew up. So all of a sudden, me practicing at home, it made me a full-fledged photographer, and I'm doing these TV interviews, and it's really weird. Like, and I had my old professors from my photography program saying congratulations, and it's such so uplifting. And I realized I got to keep doing projects like that in the future. And I'm very interested in fashion and taking photos of Muslim women who wear the hijab, because they're not really represented in the fashion industry, right? So I bring in friends and family, and I've been doing that. And I do this all in my dining room. If I'm in Ottawa, we do it in the basement. So, and I always fly with my equipment. So I just squeeze everything in there. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of things have just been broken, like a lot of light bulbs, and I have to buy more new things. But
so you've been during this time going from like Ottawa to Edmonton and back and forth, and you're carrying all these supplies with you. Yeah. And there's damage because of that too. I had this thing called the beauty dish. It was like $400. One trip, it got really dented, and then that's it. I can't use it anymore. I have to buy a new one, So there's a lot of traveling back and forth. So anyways, we did that project, right? Well, I keep saying it's me and whatever sibling I can boss around. Hey, you! You're gonna hold that reflector. So reflector is something that bounces light. You're gonna hold that. You're gonna, yeah. So
I was invited to a focus group
Okay.
with Black artists from Ottawa and the Ottawa Art Gallery. I've never been in any kind of focus group or anything like that. I was just told if you come and you sit in this meeting, you get $50. And it's about the Ottawa Art Gallery trying to understand how they can help Black artists because
Okay.
of everything that was happening.
Yeah.
And this is 2020, right? This
Yeah. Right.
2020 was the time. Yeah. So I'm there and I'm listening, and it is very heated. Like
Okay.
both sides, mostly, from the Black artists, it's like, you haven't done enough. And then they're like, well, we tried to do this. And it's just, we're going back and
Yeah.
forth for like 2 hours. And I am just waiting for my moment, So I waited. And then when there was like 10 minutes, I'm like, hey, can I just speak? Can I just, I have a question. And they thought I was going to jump into whatever they were talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do I have to do to be in the art gallery? That's all. What do I have to do? And they, the moderator was a bit awkward. She's like, this is not that kind of meeting. You have to have funding for that. But maybe you can meet with one of our curators. I'm not sure, but this is not a meeting for that. I was like, I did what I can, right?
Wait, so
Like,
okay.
okay,
So
thank
wait, hold
you.
on. Let me understand this for a second. You're in a focus group where both sides are talking about what can we do for Black artists, and we did this or we tried that. And meanwhile, you're sitting here as an artist and you're just like, so what do I need to do to get it?
Yeah.
And there's confusion about it. Like,
Yeah, like, oh, there's protocol, and we have to see your art because they're not familiar with my art too, and so there's pushback. But I didn't take offense because I just wanted to, shoot my shot,
Yeah.
But you're right. It is very ironic. You're right.
It's like looking for your glasses when they're on your face. It's like you can't find your glasses, but then they're on your face, right?
You're right.
The answer's right there.
Yeah. So the meeting ended. I thought, okay, cool, let's move on. I'm not a fancy artist. I just had that one project that kind of blew up that I posted on Instagram where, a journalist DM'd me and said, hey, I like these pictures. Can I write an article? Right? That's all that really happened. A month later, I get an email from one of the curators, and she said that meeting was recorded and I wasn't there, and I watched the entire 2 hours, and I saw your name on the little Zoom thing, and I searched it up, and I found your Instagram, and I think your work is good enough to be in the art gallery. Right? And she's like, I'd like to meet. And 6 months later, I'm in my first show. Right?
Yeah.
Getting paid to be at an art gallery, which is in the capital of Canada, which is a really big deal. So these photos that I've taken in my basement in Ottawa about these youth, suddenly blown up, printed, framed beautifully on a huge wall. And the quotes, like, this is too good enough, this is not good enough for you to write, or whatever, those quotes are alongside those photos as well. So it was very impactful. It was there for like, I think 10 months. And that gave me a lot more, a lot more people knew me because of that.
It's like momentum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then I got another email. Hey, I saw your project. I want to do a project about COVID and how, this is from an organization. We want to do a project about COVID and how the neighborhood that we work in has a lot of people of color, and therefore they are working these essential jobs, right? Grocery stores and whatever. And they have higher cases of COVID than anywhere in Ottawa. The highest level of COVID is in this neighborhood in particular. It's called the Southeast Ottawa. We want you to help us out and take the photos, and we do interviews. I'm like, yeah, part two.
Yeah.
Those photos ended up being bought by the mayor of Ottawa.
Wow.
He paid some big bucks for it.
Some big bucks for it.
Yeah, big bucks. Yeah, so we're making money now. I'm making money from photos that I would take for fun in my dining room, right?
Yeah.
And each time I do a photo shoot, I'm learning more because that gap in education is definitely there, right? This was a 2-year program The photography program was 2 years.
Okay.
I've only done 6 months of the 2 years.
Okay.
But I'm building on that the basics, teaching myself. Every photo shoot I'm in, I'm like, okay, last time I learned this. Today I'm learning if I put the light all the way there, it's not going to look nice. Let me put it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a journey in terms of navigating, this momentum and my art getting better and whatnot. So that was another big win. And then right now in Edmonton, I got approached by CBC. My latest project. CBC is like the biggest newscaster in Canada.
Okay.
It's the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
Okay.
So they approached me and they said, we want you to do a photo series. We're going to pay you. We're going to book the studio. And we want it done on Islamophobia and women in Edmonton. So
Okay.
I'm sure, I'm not sure if you heard about this, but Edmonton in particular has an issue with Muslim women being attacked. So Muslim women who wear the hijab are literally walking on the streets in public and they're being attacked and no one's helping them, violently attacked. So we did a series on that. And that I'm still doing interviews, radio interviews. So that's kind of where we're at now. I don't want to tell my entire life story, but that's where we're at.
So that's where we're at. And so this is ongoing right now? Is it
So I think I put it out like the last 2 weeks, and it was just a lot of. I did a TV interview last week, 2 radio this week. I think there's another TV coming up next week. I'm having trouble answering my emails. So much coming in at once. A lot of speaking engagements. There's no way I would have seen this coming that day when I was sitting with my dad, and he said, "You don't need to be happy."
Yeah.
Right?
That's quite a quote. Yeah. You don't need to be happy. So do you feel, so how do you feel now? Do you feel happy?
I feel happy. Yeah. I feel happy. Obviously I don't know, it's a balance, right? Because I'm a mental health counselor. I'm also a photographer. I'm also a sister. I'm also I volunteer at places. There's just a lot going on. But that love of doing something that feeds your soul, and it definitely creates that happiness. I feel content right now. I remember how I felt when I wasn't doing photography, and it was just, you felt like you couldn't express yourself. You couldn't, that voice was taken away from you, right? So
yeah,
definitely I get, and then I have this counseling job, right? Pays me really well. I take that money and I just go to the camera store. They all know me by name. I walk in and they're like, "Oh, Faisa's here." And I'm like, "Hey guys, you want to see my last photo shoot?" And then they're like, "Cool, I think you should buy this." And I fall for it. And I buy it. I usually don't need it. But that's where my money goes most of the time. So it's been great.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what excites you coming up and building upon it?
So as an artist, I tried applying for grants, and there's one grant in particular by the Canada's Art Council for the Arts, which is the biggest council for getting grants in Canada.
Okay.
I've never applied for a grant in my life, and I told them, if you look at this project that I've done in my neighborhood, if you give me money, I'm going to do this again. 3 other neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Give me 25,000.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it. They're like, "We're not going to give you 25. We'll just give you 20. And they sent it in my account at once. And I remember, oh my God. Sorry, it's like movement. That's what I like to turn off. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's totally fine. It actually looks better because then you just have natural sunlight, natural lighting coming in.
Okay. Yeah, I think they close in 12 minutes.
Okay. We'll start wrapping up soon then. So how do you see?
Oh, wait. So I got that grant, right?
Yeah.
Did that project. Yeah, I did it.
So you did it.
I did it. I didn't post it on Instagram yet, but that's kind of what's happening. Like seeing opportunities, going for it head on,
Okay.
and not thinking about rejection. Rejection is fine because even if you get rejected 100 times, or whatever, you go home knowing that you tried, and that's such a big deal. I think it's a quote by Michael Jordan. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the energy that I'm coming with now. Like, I send emails to Nike every day. I say, hey Nike, I'm still here. Let me do a photo shoot for y'all. One day you might reply back.
Wow.
So you just gotta copy paste the email from yesterday and send it back.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. We're running a little close to time now, but I love asking this question to guests, and that's, what are you curious about recently?
I'm curious, and kind of runs in the work that I do, in what people think in the recesses of their mind. Like they just everyone has. I'm almost done. Everyone has. Oh, the lights are back. Everyone has their own thoughts about what's happening. Whatever is happening in the world, and I love to use my mental health skills to kind of bridge that barrier, like to get through that barrier, and while capturing their essence through photography. So it's a combination of both. So I would never take away all that mental health experience that I have, because it actually helps my photography as well.
Wow.
I wouldn't be as great as a photographer if I didn't have those skills of getting people to show who they are, right? By getting into their deepest thoughts. So I don't even know if this is answering the question. I think I'm just rambling.
I love it. I love how you're able to take experiences and then parlay them into other experiences and eventually allow you to pursue what makes you happy.
Thank you. I think that is a big compliment. I sometimes I forget this is a journey. You're just in the whirlwind of everything.
Yeah.
And you just see what's kind of in front of you, but this has been quite a journey, and I like how it's going so far.
Yeah, well, it's going to continue. It's going to continue onward, and I'm really excited to follow it more too. This is really cool.
Thank you. It was very natural talking to you. This is great.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All the way. Where are you in America?
So I'm in Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah. You ever been?
Nah, I've been to Miami and Baltimore and Seattle. Those are the three places.
Okay. Yeah. I've only been to Canada, I think the Niagara Falls part of Canada.
Like near Toronto.
I feel like I know more about Mexico than I do Canada. That's why I wanted Canadians on.
No, we have a lot to offer. Like in our first take, I said, I have a pet fever. I drink maple syrup for breakfast. It's great. It's just Canada, we're so nice. We say sorry all the time. We open doors for each other. You guys are missing out. You should definitely come to Canada. It's very beautiful as well.
What's Toronto like? You've been to Toronto?
Toronto is Ontario's capital. It's the one city we're not embarrassed of. Big
I hear great things about Toronto, especially.
We won the NBA a couple of years ago. That's what we walk around saying to people.
Yeah, my Milwaukee Bucks are my team, and so we won.
Right? Yeah.
What's it? Yeah, we just won. Right? Yeah, Giannis is my guy. I love Have you heard his story?
No, I haven't. But
Wow. It's like, honestly, it inspires me like every day. Like, so Giannis, his parents emigrated from Nigeria to Athens, and he was born in Athens. And
Greece.
yeah, and they lived in poverty, and they're selling trinkets on the streets. And then when he's a teenager, he's tall, so they're like, hey, you should play basketball. So he starts playing, but him and his brother, they're like walking 12 miles a day just to practice, and then they're coming back, they're taking buses, and he doesn't have papers, so he can't play in leagues that travel outside of Greece. So when scouts are coming to see him play, they're like, why is he in this like low league? So it's hard to evaluate his actual talent because he's playing against like just like YMCA like recreation. But the Bucks take a chance on him. And he was having so many problems getting papers because you have to have papers to get drafted in the NBA. So they were pleading the Greek government. And it wasn't until the higher ups there learned that he started going to the Nigerian government to get papers, that they were like, oh, wait a minute, he can play in the NBA. Like, that's good for our country. So then he finally got his papers, came over, and then his whole goal was, I'm going to get my family over here. So it's only him, and he doesn't even like stay in the hotel. He just sleeps in the gym because in order to get his family over, he needs to just get good at basketball. So he's practicing all the time, and he has the goal of, being on the team, then making the rotation, becoming a starter, an all-star, an MVP, an NBA champion. And he's done all those things through time, through this mindset. I'm so proud of him.
And his family.
His whole family now is all over.
His brothers also play, right?
Yeah, his brothers also play. One plays on the Bucks with him, and then the other, Kostas, he played for the Lakers and won a title. I'm not sure what team he's on right now, but it's just so remarkable to see his journey, and it's so inspiring. And I'm so proud that he's on my team. Yeah, this is like, it's definitely read this book. It's fantastic. I love making, I'm like videos. I love talking about Giannis. He's like such an inspiration, and it's cool to like learn more about inspiring stories like that around the world, because they are there. Yeah.
To talk to different people. No, this is great.
Yeah.
No, I'm definitely getting that book. I love how like his talent is finally being recognized as well, because this is his first ring, right? So it's only up from here.
Yeah, he's we're talking about journeys, right? Well, his journey is definitely also on that incredible trajectory. Yeah. So well, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for meeting with me. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to keep in touch with you.
Yeah, no, if something else happens and I'm taking pictures of the prime minister, we out here. I'll tell you, I'll be like, that email, someone replied.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So
that's so cool.
Thank you for having me, Rich. Again, very easy to talk to you. I don't really say all that usually, but thank you for having me and listening.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do have one last thing. If you were to give anybody, someone who like has that yearning inside of them to like pursue something that would make them happy, what would you tell them?
Don't give up. And it might not be the time now, that you will eventually, if you don't give up, if you follow number one, you'll eventually have that yearning. It might be in 10 years.
Yeah.
For me, it had to be in the middle of a pandemic to get that yearning quenched, right? So definitely don't give up. And another thing is, like, for me, sometimes I'm walking, like, as an artist, I'm walking and I get an epiphany.
Yeah.
It would be the coolest photo shoot if I have this person, and and this, and the background's this color or whatever. I make it a point to honor that idea. Whatever comes to my mind, I have to honor it because it came to me, right? So even if I do that photo shoot in a year from now, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know, honor yourself, honor your ideas, honor that yearning that you have inside yourself. You know, give yourself that space. You are important. Your wants and needs are important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
even if the world might not think it. In my case, it was my dad.
Well, thanks again. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your weekend.
You too.
All right. See ya.
Bye. And this was a rich conversation.
Very rich conversation, right?